Denise with Paper Crafty. I am here today to show you my technique for printing on fabric. I'm going to show you how I printed Cara Brandon's, oh, wrong one, Cara Brandon's collage sheet from the 5 days of Digis. This is the collage page she made for the collaboration between DearJulieJulie and Cara Brandon Creations. And I'm going to show you how I printed it on fabric so that I could make this cover for a journal that I'm going to be making. See, you can see, oops, see, all the little interior things fell out. Okay, so so you can see how I printed it on fabric and then used it, sewed it onto this this other pink fabric underneath. So first thing that I'd suggest if you want to print on fabric is, get to know your printer. I am printing on this 40-pound heavyweight project paper cardstock. I think I bought this when my son had to do his Eagle Scout project, and we needed, some paper, more heavyweight project paper for printing out his report. And actually, I really like this. It's a little heavier than what I normally use, which is 32-pound, but it's not quite cardstock weight, so it goes through my printer really easily. And my particular printer doesn't take heavy-duty cardstock, but use what you have. I like using the HP cardstock for my printer because it's an HP printer. And then I'm going to take this little Tombow mono adhesive, dot adhesive. This stuff is great. It really sticks well, and it's removable in the short term, and then it becomes permanent. So that's kind of why I like this. And then I just take and I go right up to the edge on this paper. You can see I'm gonna actually go, kind of over the edge of the paper a little bit. I'm not going in here where there's a little, gap. I'm going right up to the edge. Okay, and I'm gonna do that on all 4 sides. And the only trick with this is to try to make sure that it doesn't, if you miss the edge, just go over it again. And try not to get then this cardstock back in the adhesive that, you got on your craft mat, because then that portion won't print when it goes through the printer on the other side. Okay. So I got all 4 sides of this printed, and then I've got an old a sheet that we never used. We don't use a lot of top sheets. We use the base sheets mainly. So yeah, my mother-in-law gave us these sheets one year. I don't even remember what it was for, maybe Christmas or something. And we never used them. So, and it had some really pretty lace on it, but it's just not something that my husband would really like. But it was really fun to pull apart and use on some junk journals that I've been doing. So anyhow, so I just take it and I try to get a sheet that's not, that doesn't have too many wrinkles. So like this particular sheet had been really nicely folded. It, I'm not even sure if it had ever been washed because I just pulled it out of the package. But you know, that doesn't really matter. So I just kind of get it as close as I can for the first go around, lay it nice and flat, try to remove as many wrinkles as I can, and then I cut it out roughly so that I can maneuver this thing. Yeah. Okay. Whew. All right. And then, you know, once I've got it like this, I can easily pull it back up and try to work out some of the wrinkles. And, you know, don't worry if you don't get them all right now. Once you cut it closer, you can work out the wrinkles a little bit more as well. You know, and if you do have a few wrinkles, no big deal. I mean, this is, after all, junk journaling. I mean, part of the appeal of this type of art is that it's imperfect and that it has kind of a distressy look and feel to it. I really enjoy that. I am and have always been a huge fan of Tim Holtz and kind of his style of art making. And then I just go around and cut very close to the edge of this this paper, and that's going to be a little challenging to do and stay in frame. So I apologize if I come out of frame a little bit, but yeah, I'm gonna have to get closer to my eyes. Between my glasses and my eyes getting older, that is not a great combination. Try not to cut the paper. Just cut the fabric and use the edge of the paper as a guide. And I love these Tim Holtz scissors for cutting fabric. These things cut everything, and I love this large size. Now they're my favorite pair. Well, these tonic Tim Holtz scissors have always been my favorite scissors, period, but I really like that they have this large size now. Super cool. So again, you know, if you see wrinkles, you can just kind of, you know, lift this up from the edge. Ooh, if I can get it from the edge. Actually, this is pretty good, but you know, you can, well, let's see, you can lift it up here, you know, and again, just, well, that made it worse, but you can actually just, you know, flatten it out like this, stretch it a little bit. Go, and then you can see I stretched out that wrinkle and it kind of went over the edge a little bit, so I'm just going to trim it some more. Okay, that's good. I'm going to take this to my printer and feed it through. My particular printer, actually I'm going to even that out a little bit more. My particular printer, I feed it the side that I want to print goes like that. I put it facing down. I'm gonna get as many of these little kind of pieces of string off as possible. So yeah, I'll feed it like this. But you know, your printer may be different, so know your printer and do your printer. Okay, I'm gonna put this on pause and I will be back shortly. Okay, I'm back and you can see that this prints absolutely beautifully on the fabric. One thing in terms of settings that I would say, I print this on HP Smart. It's the app that goes with my printer. And if I don't use the app, I sometimes have a lot of connection issues with my printer between my iPad or iPhone, which is generally what I print from. Yeah, I mean, all of my Digis are on my iPad, so I generally print the digitals from my iPad. And again, I mean, I have no problems connecting when I'm working with my computer, but when I'm working with a, you know, my iPad or my phone, I sometimes have connection issues if I don't use the app. So all that to say, I can go in here and change the paper to photo paper. And when I printed here on fabric, I changed the paper to photo because I figured it would lay down more ink. And since, you know, fabric is more absorbent generally than paper, I wanted a little bit more ink laid down. But then I turned it back to plain paper when I printed on the back side. So I printed both sides of this. I printed this side first on, you know, with the paper settings to photo, and then I changed it to regular plain paper when I printed this side. Okay. And then I just went through and I took my pinking shears and I went through and just trimmed the edges of this. And I tried to do this fairly precisely where I went and, you know, then lined up the triangles. I tried to keep it so that, you know, it was even. This one's a little less even because I'm trying to do this quickly for the video. But yeah. So yeah, try to keep it, you know, as close to the edge as you can and as even as you can. It doesn't really, you know, matter a great deal. I mean, my idea when I made this was that I'd have the ends of this fraying anyway. And I think over time they will fray a bit, which is awesome. That's the look I was going for. Otherwise I would have, you know, sewn, you know, folded over the edges and sewn it, you know, so that it can't fray. Where it's turned over, like, you know, clothing and things like that. But I like that look of, you know, the distressed look and the frayed look, all that. So I'm basically just cutting off the border. You know, we don't want that in the final project. And, you know, you can cut this with regular scissors if you don't have pinking shears or you don't want to use the pinking shears on paper, which, you know, I know a lot of people who seamstresses are probably absolutely cringing right now that I'm using my pinking shears on paper. Sorry. But I am not really a serious seamstress. So for me, that's just fine. It works just fine. And then I took and I used some distress. This is Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. So I used some of this on the edge all the way around the edge. And I really liked keeping this on the paper. It was just really easy to work with the fabric this way. You know, just made it super simple. And it's coming up a tiny bit there, but no big deal because it's not going through the printer again. So, you know, just had cut off some of that adhesive, but for the most part, it's staying down pretty well. Okay. All right, so when I took this to the printer, and I mean to the sewing machine, I actually, hopefully I have a large enough piece of tulle here. Okay, I actually took the piece of tulle, I actually doubled it up because I figured, you know, this stuff rips fairly easily, so I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want it to rip, but I just, you know, laid it on here. Let's see. I don't think I even pinned it. I had the tool that I had, this has been sitting in my drawer down in my craft room, so it's off the roll, so it's actually pretty wrinkly, but the tool that I have up in my craft room is on the roll, so it laid nice and flat, but I just kind of went over the edges much more than I'm doing now, probably out to here, so I had plenty of room. I took this and you know, what did I do with my, you know, I took this tool, you know, I just laid it on top of this like that, doubled it up like that on the paper, and then I put in, you know, the paper hearts. These were die cut hearts from a die cut that I have. I put in these little these white bubble things that I have that I had gotten from Michael's years and years ago. They used to be in the floral department. I don't know what for. I don't know what they use those for in the floral department, but maybe for filling vases. I'm not entirely sure. But and then some glitter. Yeah, you can put whatever you want in here. This is, you know, it's like a shaker pocket, so you can put, you know, I wouldn't put a super fine glitter because that will come through the holes in the tool, but this kind of chunkier glitter is great, you know, and it moves around. It's super fun. I like that it makes noise when you shake it, these little bubble thingies. But yeah, you can put whatever you want in there. But I don't think I even, like I said, I don't think I even pinned it. I just simply laid it over the top. I put my, you know, arm on the sewing machine, and then I just stitched right here, and I used, for the two sides, I used this, I don't know what you call this stitch. It kind of looks like a honeycomb to me, but it's like interlocking triangles. So I used that stitch here and here, and then I just used a straight stitch along here. And I did that while the fabric was still attached directly to the paper. So I did that kind of honeycomb stitch here, you know, kept the needle in, turned it around, changed to straight stitch, went along here, turned it around, changed it back to the honeycomb, went back up here, turned it around, went to straight stitch, and turned it and went back here. And you know, basically, you know, the most important thing is to make sure that you don't get, you know, any of these bigger pieces, especially underneath your needle. or your foot. And I also didn't want to sew any of these little paper hearts to the fabric, so I tried to avoid those. But you know, that was pretty simple. And then I switched it to a straight stitch, and then I basically just used my ruler as kind of a guide for the foot to do a straight stitch here. You know, lifted the thing, kept the needle in, turned it around, did another straight stitch, and then used my ruler again. Actually, I didn't have a ruler upstairs. I just had like a, I don't know, some piece of wood, a die cut of some sort. I don't know, because it's my craft room, and use that as a guide for the foot to do the other side. And again, just being super careful not to get these, you know, any of these things underneath the foot, so that they, you know, don't, you know, you don't break the needle or hurt your machine in any way. So anyway, that was super simple. Then I took, I used this heavyweight fusible siding. I don't think you need it fusible. I did try to iron it at first to the fabric. I took the paper off and I tried to iron it to the fabric, and I thought that I would, you know, sew it on that way. And I didn't like the way it turned out. I'm trying to find the, oh, here's the fabric. You know, the ink, the printer ink reacted with the heat, and the yellow really reacted, and it kind of came forward. If you can see the difference here. So this here, it just looks like a light beige, off-white, and then the yellow just came through, and I didn't like that look as much. I didn't think that was very pretty, so I just pulled this off the interfacing, and I just decided, well, I'll just put this, you know, like it is. You know, it added a little bit of structure and texture to the final cover. So I cut it, you know, slightly less than the size of the 8.5 by 11 sheet. You can see here, you know, it's not quite 8.5 by 11. And then I took, you know, so here this is, it's got, you know, the tool sewn to it with all these little things, and it actually at this point it's just sewn right here, okay, along here. So all I did was I turned this over and I peeled up the paper. So I took the paper off of the back of the fabric. I, you know, used a pokey tool to kind of, you know, start it, and then I used to kind of lift up the edge, and it was really easy to pull the paper off where the straight stitch was. Just kind of pulled off really easily, but I was really careful around this honeycomb stitch. I kind of just, you know, I used my fingernail as a guide and kind of tore the edges as close to that stitch as I could, because I didn't want to damage that stitch at all. So there's a little bit of paper just along this stitch underneath here on either side, but you can see the fabric is the paper is no longer attached to the fabric. So it's nice and soft, you know, but it has a nice structure because that fusible lining, the interfacing, the stiff interfacing's in there. And then I simply took the fabric with this stuff, laid it on top of the this background here. This was a comforter that I was gifted, and we ended up not having a use for, so turned it into some journals. And I put some, between this fabric and the this pink fabric, I put some tulle just, you know, like this. I just laid it, you know, one here, one down here, so it overlapped quite a bit. The edge came all the way around. I took a layer of tulle, a long piece of tulle to use as the tie, and put it underneath there. Put this on top, and this I did pin, you know, on the edges. I also put a piece of tulle on the interior. Oh, this is upside down. On the interior to use as a pocket. So I pinned this all the way around. And then I just, you know, sewed the edges, and I just did it several times around, I think 3 times around, a combination of zigzag stitch and straight stitch just to give it a little bit more interest and texture. I tried to keep this whole bottom area just straight stitch, the top and the bottom, but the sides I mixed it up with some zigzag stitch. Then, you know, I basically did it enough times until my bobbin ran out of thread, and now I'm gonna have to figure out how to add more thread to my bobbin, because it's a machine my mom gifted me, and I don't know how to add more thread to the bobbin, but I'll figure that out and do some more stitching on my projects, because I really love the look. And then when I took it off, I just went through, I made sure to keep this way out of the way, and a tulle was sticking out a lot right here and then all around the edges, and I just trimmed the tulle to be even with this pink fabric. So that's it. That's basically how I created this fabric cover, how I print on fabric, how I, you know, made this cover. If you're interested in doing something similar, it was a lot of fun. I just really love the way it turned out, and I'm definitely going to be making a journal out of it. You know, I'll definitely post a video when everything's done, but certainly a lot of fun. Hope it gave you some inspiration and some ideas on things you can do. And you know, you don't need to make a journal cover with fabric. You can use fabric on all sorts of stuff. You know, you can, with a collage sheet like this is great. You can use it for tags. You can tear it and get it, you know, the edges to, you know, fray a little bit, and use it as, you know, just like you would on paper, you know, as a collage. Or as a basis, you know, for decoration and embellishments. So anyway, just a really fun way to use, to stretch your supplies and your digital kits. So thank you so much for watching. Again, if you like this video and you'd like to see more like this, process videos like this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment so that I know that you would like to see more in this kind of vein. Again, thank you so much for watching, and thanks so much to Cara Brandon and DearJulieJulie for the lovely Valentine's Day digitals that they provided us with so that we could share our project ideas with you. And that's it from me, Paper Crafty. Craft on!